I did a video a handful of months back where I was explaining that internally you speak 3 languages. The language of your head, conscious, subconscious, and the language of your heart, feeling. And I explained that they actually have different languages amongst themselves. But I was incorrect, because you actually, internally, you speak 4 languages within yourself, and obviously each language is different. And some of those languages aren't actually languages per se. I use the word language because it is the means by which these parts of us, and whatever it actually is that they represent, that whatever it actually is that stimulates them to quote unquote talk to us. So I do a lot of thinking about how we're made and how we're built, because the more you understand about the character, the more you understand how the player plays the character, so to speak. So you speak 4 languages internally. You speak the language of your conscious mind. Now follow me through here. Some of this you've heard me say before, but it's going to get off into making a couple of points. And I guess I want to share with you, or show you, another slice of the proverbial pie that, well, I've said before, I like to do cartwheels around subject matters and analyze it from every angle I can, slice by slice by slice. So just follow me along. You may or may not find this, good enough food for thought to sit with and contemplate. But anyway, so clearly your mind speaks, well, your mind is compartmentalized in 5% conscious mind. That's where your cognitive processing is. That's where logic and reason largely take place. That's where language is really derived from. It's one of the things that separates us from like monkeys and apes. Even though they might be able to speak through a language of symbols, they don't have a complex language. At least not the way that we do, verbal spoken. Now, you also speak, so you speak the language, your mind, your conscious mind, follow me on this train of thought, represents 5% of mind. Where the pilot of the ship actually resides, your conscious awareness, that makes up 5% of what mind and its functional capacity is. Inasmuch as those who have studied these things have derived. Now the Vedic, the Hindus over in India, they'll tell you it's 90% subconscious and 10% conscious. So either way, whoever's right, there's a small fraction of our mind that is actually the conscious part. And in that conscious part, it's where we think, we perceive, a lot of our thinking, perceiving, analyzation, language, yada, yada, yada. Okay. And it makes sense that that part of our mind would speak the language, or we would speak to ourselves, if you will, our internal dialogue, in the language of our native tongue. Most people get that and understand that. Okay. Well, the 95% of your mind that is categorized as subconscious, an aspect of mind that makes up quite literally the vast majority. Think about it. 5%, 95%. Which one do you think makes up more? 95% of your mind and its functional capacity is subconscious. Okay, on its face, okay. But strangely enough, the language that part of your being speaks is a language that you don't actually recognize per se. It's a language of images, symbols, sigils, colors, emblems, logos, those kinds of things. It's vastly different in the language that it speaks and the way that it communicates with us and even our conscious mind. So from one part of mind to another part of mind where the experiencer resides, and in that part of mind where the experiencer resides, it speaks the language of the native tongue, if you will, of the spoken language that the human was taught. Yet somehow the subconscious mind, which makes up the vast majority of what that human is, even though some part of subconscious is unconscious, where motor skills and other such things reside, and we wouldn't necessarily want to even mess with that, but still, the vast majority of what makes up mind, number one, is such a vast fraction more, and we don't have cognitive access to it, we don't have conscious access to it, and it speaks a different damn language. And we're not taught necessarily how to recognize, sense, comprehend how, when, where, if you will, our own fucking subconscious, because there's a lot of stuff that's in there that we're not consciously aware of, maybe somehow trying to, what? Because it's got a mind of its own, communicate with our conscious part of ourselves, and we may not recognize it. Or, if we're under a high state of stress, We may not sense it, may not pick up on it, may not, because what? Oh, it's a different fucking language than the language that our conscious, aware self thinks in, speaks in, processes in, and, all that other shit. Okay, I could go on about that in and of itself. And there's probably plenty of points I haven't brought to the table there, but just to give you a high-level sense of the vastness of subconscious and, well, what are the odds? The damn part of your mind that makes up the vast majority of what you are doesn't speak to you in the same language that, well, you speak to yourself, if you see what I'm saying there. That's really bizarre. Okay. Then you speak the language of the heart, and that's your feeling. Now, have you ever had an experience where, to give you a couple of senses of how this part of you can and does speak to you, there's many ways, but have you ever had a situation where, I don't know, you were head over heels with joy, and you had a flutter in your heart, or some sort of, but a positive type thing, just this really light, elated feeling, or the opposite side of that spectrum. Let's say, I don't know, the bully standing in front of you, you're about to get your ass kicked, and you got this real tense feeling in your chest, right there in the center of your chest. Or, you're going at it with a significant other, they're just being a total pain in the ass, and they're getting in your craw, blah, 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 you're ready to just fucking walk away, and you just got this strong tension in the center of your chest. That's your heart speaking to you, and not recognizing what the tension means, what the fluttering means, or all points in between, is us not recognizing it's almost like you speak in Spanish in a certain sort of way for English-only speakers. Because if you're not listening to, if you don't understand what that tension means, if you don't understand what that flutter means, or any other signal that your heart's going to send you, if you're not listening to it, and sometimes it comes in a subtle way. And if you're not listening to it, you're not aware of it, you're not tuned into it, you're never going to hear it. You're never going to recognize it for what it is as a aspect of your being, or hey, they say the spark of the divine is within our hearts. If we're getting signals, whatever type they might be, the knot of stress, the fluttering when you're jumping for joy or madly in love, or all points in between, the types of feeling beacons that can come from the heart. If we're highly stressed or highly charged, good luck recognizing that your heart's speaking to you. Good luck listening to it. Good luck, all that stuff. Good luck with it when you're highly charged, emotionally charged, stressed, whether induced from external sources or you're just like a hot mess and you've done it to yourself. Either way, good luck listening or hearing these aspects without specific knowledge, specific awarenesses, and I would even go as far as to say specific types of training, where you're learning to feel it, learning to sense it, learning when you're under stress, how to, well, hell, we don't get any of that. And then the fourth language that you speak, and the similar scenarios that I just explained for the heart, you could retrofit that over to your gut. The language of intuition. That's an internal feeling. Everybody's probably experienced a time where their gut was doing flip-flops in a good way or a bad way. Or a similar thing where you got this tension in your gut because of something that you were sensing internally or something. What part of you is speaking to you there? Yes, your gut, but is that your spirit? Is that your soul? Is it we're hearing from God when we hear from our heart? Is that our spirit talk? We don't really know where. We know that it's sourced from the gut, the heart, yada, yada, yada. But if God or your higher self or something can speak to you through your heart or your intuition or something like that, well, we don't know that. There are some New Agey people that might think that's, or say that's possible, or other spiritually oriented people. But do we actually know that this is the case? Has God said, hey, listen, every once in a while, I'm going to have something to say to you. You're coming through the heart, if we had some sense of that, but we don't. It's kind of what we think. And be that as it may, either way, there's still a language there within your heart. And the way that hopefully you've all experienced something where you recognize, yeah, I have had a moment, many moments where I was able to distinguish that there was a feeling I was getting in my heart, good, bad, or about something. Same thing with your gut. Walking down that dark street and you get that sinking feeling in your gut when you see a few people and you kind of just intuitively know, oh shit, this is not going to go well. And you either turn around and leave the circumstances, or you mentally prepare yourself for having to deal with 3 people. Whatever. That internal gut. You ever had a situation where you get that sinking feeling? Your wife or your husband just told you that they've been cheating on you, and you get that sinking feeling in your gut. You heard somebody just passed away, or any other things. That sinking feeling. So there's just a couple of ways where your gut and your intuition has a language and speaks to us. And they say that your hair is your antenna, and that ties into your intuition, which is this gut thing, and that, yeah, they say maybe people have heard woman's intuition. And I think that men are just as capable of that intuition. It's just that inherently men have been cutting their hair for kind of a long time. So we may be cutting off that antenna to higher levels of intuition. Just a thought. Anyway, so we were made to be a being that when you step away from it and look at what it is we do know about ourselves, we speak 4 languages. I guess I wonder why we're not imbued with any inherent knowledge of this. I guess I wonder why it can be so challenging to read this and interpret this, let alone listen to this. I guess I wonder why, if, for instance, spirit, or quote-unquote the divine, speaks to us or communicates to us and or guides us or whatever thing people want to tell themselves, want to believe, and all that other shit, you'd think it would be a little easier to listen to or to hear, to discern, to identify, and to listen to these inner things. Since we're not taught about this, since we're not imbued with any inherent instinctual knowledge to understand ourselves and how to actually read ourselves, how to listen to ourselves, how to interpret the languages that we speak internally, well, that's a recipe that's conducive to a lot of unpleasant shit. Warring within ourselves when your heart says one thing, your head says another. Think about that. So not only can we be at war with ourselves internally, because the head says one thing, the heart says another, maybe the gut says another, and you just all twisted around, not sure what to do. Why? How's that working? So to truly be a human being, you have to understand, at least at a bare minimum, these 4 languages and how they work and play well with each other or don't play well with each other. You know, it would be nice if we understood how to, and the world is full of situations and circumstances that can put the human into deep states of stress. And under those circumstances, how to listen to or hear from. Where and when these parts of our being are trying to communicate with us in some way, but strangely enough, our brains, our minds, our conscious minds speak, the language of your native tongue, and then everything else that's quote-unquote important that would be wanting to or needing to speak to you, your gut, your heart, your subconscious, and all the knowledge that's in there. Well, they all speak different fucking languages. And on top of that, in order to truly hear from them, interpret them accurately, trust them, and all that other stuff, well, you got to know this. You got to take time to work with it. Work with developing that inner, the channels within yourself where you can hear the heart and hear the gut. And then I guess there's something to be said for, unless you're just naive and do shit blindly, and I've been that person too, where you got to develop a level of trust with the supposed guidance or messages, where and when you can't hear any of it, that your gut gives you. Oh, don't do it. Or your heart says do it because it's dancing. Whatever it might be. I think for a lot of us that don't even know about this stuff, we have to first develop this understanding, develop this sense, because it's kind of the quiet, subtle stuff sometimes, although it can be very different. It can be the opposite side. Your stomach can go into a knot that you can't deny. Your heart can. But a lot of times it's subtle. And it's learning to tune into yourself in whatever way that is. And then listen to what's being said and the direction or guidance, quote unquote, that you're getting from within. And then listening to it, actually listening to it. And then over time, when you hear from your gut and you interpret it correctly and listen, when you hear from your heart and it's telling you something and you listen, I guess over time, by listening and seeing that what you were told turned out to be true and correct, you start developing that inner trust, if you will. It's kind of strange, where you have to almost, unless you're blind and naive, you almost have to develop a trust with your inner self, as well as this goddamn process you've got to go through of learning how to listen to, interpret, and hear and sense when your gut's talking to you in all the ways in which it can. Your intuition. To learn, to hear, and sense, and actually listen to when your heart's talking to you. And then in the process of all that, dealing with that when you're under stress, and then when your heart's talking to you, or your head's or your gut's talking to you, and then your head, based off of what you've been experiencing, what you've seen, blah, blah, blah. Your head's telling you one thing. Your heart's telling you another. Your gut's telling you another. Yeah. Welcome to the war within yourself. And I suppose this is one of the scenarios that can manifest for the human in their experience of life when they have never been taught what they are. They've never literally been taught the languages that their being communicates with. You just kind of got to wonder. You kind of got to wonder why the fuck something would create us to speak 4 languages in that way. And then you could be a grown adult and not even recognize that you speak these 4 languages within yourself and recognize how to listen to them, let alone there's any congruency within yourself for hearing from, listening to, trusting that inner thing. Hell, knowing what that quote unquote inner thing is. Is it divine? Is it the divine speaking to you through your heart? Is it your what? Higher self, your inner self that somehow senses something that your tiny little 5% conscious mind doesn't see or sense for itself, because our conscious minds are so limited in what they can perceive and know. We couldn't know, right? Because, well, when you squeeze our fucking minds down to 5% conscious and, that kind of thing, it's kind of hard for us to know, certain things because, well, they've wired us. Well, anyway, I'm digressing. I sit here and think about the human. And I've gone from how we're built and engineered that make us so easily stimulatable into suffering. I look at how we're built and engineered that ties into the amount of energy that we produce and the amount of energy that we emit. I look at the fact that we're born blank, born ignorant, and programmable, how stimulatable that makes the ignorant human who doesn't know anything, who has no foundation of knowledge or truth, who doesn't understand themselves in that they're mental, emotional, and psychological in their being, in the inside, and that if they don't grow and develop those aspects of themselves and mature those aspects of themselves through their life, those that seek to control the world will gain access to your inner being through those entry points of the non-physical aspects of your being. You were made for this shit, humans. I don't think that whatever it is that created us, quote unquote, loved us one bit. I just can't stop seeing things that really stack against the human ever even truly coming to know what they are, let alone having that handed to them and they see that as a young child and then have enough time throughout their whole life to develop themselves. We don't even fucking live long enough to truly become a realized human being in all the ways that humans have to work to develop mind, emotion, psychology, all those aspects of self-mastery, mastery of energy, mastery of sexuality, mastery of, of your spiritual connection, mastery of harnessing of your will. Oh, there's just so much. We don't live long enough. Look, most people don't figure this shit out until later in life. It's just like, wait a minute. So we were made to speak these 4 languages, and we only consciously understand one of them. Interesting. Made with all these non-physical aspects of us, and they're the entry points and access points to our being. Thusly, they have proven to be the most vulnerable aspects of our being that are non-physical, the weakest parts of our being. You can be strong as an ox, but if you're mentally weak and I can mind fuck you because you're mentally weak, well, I can own you. And then all those muscles, I can make you my tough guy. You're going to work for me now, huh? And I'll just mind fuck you because your mind is soft. You're easily led. That's what happens when you don't take the time to strengthen your mind. Well, all of these non-physical aspects of us, this is where we are weak, we are vulnerable, and they are also entry points into your being. And then once they gain access into the mind, well, then they have access to your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, your beliefs, your perceptions, your sexuality's in there, your will's in there. Once they gain access through the door of your mind into, well, you, in whatever way they gain access, a little bit here, a little bit there, or somehow they get in there for a while and can do whatever they want. All of those internal aspects of our being that we haven't taken the time to strengthen, if they gain access through the entry point of the mind, well, they can then start to destroy or whittle away at everything else. So we got to kind of strengthen everything within us so that if the entry point of the mind and the defenses that we have for it are penetrated, so to speak, that everything else within us is strengthened, shored up. And you know what I mean? When you really start to think about this, when you really start to look, it's like, wow, we lack so much knowledge of what we are. And in lacking that knowledge of what we are, we lack so much of an understanding of what we need to know just to be human in this realm. And it's in what we do not know that we are being taken advantage of. It's in all that we do not know that those who are taking advantage are gaining access or entry through the access points of our being in the incorporeal, non-physical, intangible side of our being. Think about what I'm saying. So this is just a shit show of epic proportions for humans, because there's all these non-physical, intangible, incorporeal aspects of our being that make up what we are as a physical 3D being. These aspects of us are as important as the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, and all that other stuff in the overall health and well-being of the body. We don't know this. They're entry points or access points into our internal being, and they remain the weakest and most vulnerable points of access to our being by anything and everything out there that knows more about you than you. Okay. We're traumatized across the board to the degree that people understand how and why I say that and how that actually applies. And then we're born to be beings that internally speak 4 languages in the ways that I illustrated in the first, 15, 20 minutes of this monologue. I stand hard pressed to see the benevolence in the design. I see a species that was quite literally made to be manipulated, puppeted, abused, fucked with, extracted from, stimulated, programmed. That's an interesting dynamic because the brain's in the mind's in the theta state for the first 7 years, 6-7 years. I fail to see where the benevolence is in the creator, in any other place other than what they, who know how we operate, in the beliefs that they've put in our minds. That's where that actually exists. It's in the beliefs. So when you want to deceive us, when you want to control us without constant physical war, you've got to deceive us at the most foundational level of our being, and that being our beliefs. And since we're born blank and we're born programmable, if you can start to build beliefs for us, understanding what the beliefs are to the human, understanding that an ignorant human won't understand where they got their beliefs or how they believe, why they believe, what they believe. Largely, most humans will remain unconscious enough to never actually question their beliefs, trace their beliefs back to their source. Most humans won't do that. I don't understand why. I don't understand why, but they won't. So, I guess the overall point that I'm trying to make, it could be that look at these assholes and how they made us to be completely manipulatable. That's there. That's always there for you to look at and discover for yourself. And it's true. I can't get away from it. It's true, or it wouldn't be. Hell, the 3 guarantees you get are pain, suffering, and death. Look at how the engineering of the human is conducive to pain and suffering. Like, they literally engineered us so those 2 fucking things could be the case. And then death, well, the body just dies. That's just the way that works. We were engineered for it. There's just no evidence of the love and benevolence and blah, 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 that everybody wants to believe, because they want to believe there's a daddy in the sky that's going to pat their bottom and coddle them and hold them and hug them and tell them that he loves them and all. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Not for humans. So we are burdened with the responsibility of figuring everything out in what little time we're given to figure it out. Then we're burdened with all the fucking work that you have to do to master any of the aspects of yourself. Yogis and gurus and monks and blah, blah, blah. They can do the journey of decades mastering mind, mastering emotions. Like a very, very, very long time. Some of them start this journey when they're very young. But no, this really gets deep, and certain points that I'm making here have sub-veins, if you will, a sub-vein of thought that are relevant, that could kind of make the whole thing a little bit more holistic. But, I'm sitting in my automobile without the ability to put any of my thoughts on a wall and look at it and do anything decent before I do these monologues. So if the quality of my content is somewhat less than this is the way the universe is shoving it up my fucking ass. And it's been this way. Anyway, you speak 4 languages. And, I just wonder, and this isn't a criticism, I'm just curious. I had to sit for months and months and months and months in thought of lots and lots and lots of things over, kind of a long time for this stuff to kind of quote unquote come to me in the way it did. Or it was just all swirling around in my head and it all just linked up and I saw it all and I'm like, oh, wow, look at that. That is kind of true. And I'll leave you with this. How many of us have heard our gut or felt our gut saying one thing? Our head said a different thing. We did what our head said, which was different than what our gut said. And when we came through the other side of the experience, we looked back and it was like, fuck, my gut was right. I should have listened to myself. Or the opposite, where your gut said don't do something. Well, look at it from both sides. Where your gut says do something and you don't, or where your gut says don't do something and you do. How many times have you had those experiences happen where you didn't listen to yourself and it wasn't until after the fact and you look back at it and you're like, damn, I had that feeling in my gut said I should have. And God damn it, I didn't do it. I had that feeling in my gut that said I shouldn't have. And fuck, I did it anyway. Or I had that feeling in my heart, this knot in my heart, this jump, whatever it was. And my head said do this. And well, now there's this war within us where this conscious part of ourself decides to do what it decides to do based off of the evidence that it's got or what it wants and yada, yada, yada. Yet the heart or the gut can speak to us and tell us we don't listen to it, come to realize that later. And so many people never truly link together that this part of themselves that they continuously don't listen to is usually right. And yet they never link it up inside where I should listen to my gut, because the head can rule, or basically it rules everything. Yet the head is where that measly old 5% lives on the grand scheme of things. So we will override what the heart says through this measly old 5% part of our conscious mind. We will override what the gut says through this tiny little thing that we call, a mind that is 90 or 5% of it. That small little 5% overrides any other internal, beacon, feeling, communication that we get for so many of us. And I just purport that the reason that happens is we're not trained, taught, or explained how to listen to this stuff, how to be guided by this inner stuff. Anyway, just thinking out loud, just philosophizing. Do what you will with it. If you think it's good, process it, spit out what doesn't work. If you think it's shit, well then fucking throw it away, go away and click off and, you know, that kind of thing. Whatever works for you. I'm just putting out there some of the shit that rattles around in my fucking head. So take it easy, people.